What's up, Hambone here, and I am bringing you a Last of Us video today. And the topic of today's video is more or less two things. The first thing will be really quick, but it will be directed more towards The Last of Us, and if you're interested in news about The Last of Us DLC. And the second thing will be about a hot topic at the moment. It will be about Ben Affleck as Batman, but I am a huge Batman fan, and I thought I'd give my insight on it because I am more or less on the other side of everything, as most people are right now. I am actually not afraid of Ben Affleck being Batman, and I'm actually not worried about him doing a bad job at all. So, first things first, The Last of Us DLC. You should expect details for The Last of Us DLC this weekend at PAX Prime. Naughty Dog said at the beginning of this month, it was actually July 31st when they said it, but they were referring to August, that we should be hearing DLC information, details, sometime this month. And the only time left in this month for them to announce anything is at PAX, because they've gone this entire month without announcing anything. So you should expect DLC details this weekend at PAX Prime. If I were you, I would be expecting a story DLC details more than multiplayer details. So if you are one of those people who like the story, but you're more excited about the multiplayer for this game now, maybe that's not good news to you, but I think it's just going to be a story DLC drop, so don't get your hopes up for multiplayer, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the second topic now is Ben Affleck and him being Batman. So, I'm a huge Batman fan. I started out, watching the animated series as a kid, and I kind of evolved over the years watching the movies, and then more recent years, probably the past 7 or 8, I've actually started reading the comic books, the graphic novels, when I got chances to, and I've read a lot of them actually. Personal favorite being The Killing Joke, just because I thought the Joker's part in that was pretty sweet. But anyway, I'm going to give you reasons as to why you should not be afraid of Ben Affleck being cast as Batman. I will give some negatives though as to why you still kind of should be worried, I guess. But I'm going to assure you that the positives more or less outweigh the negatives. And the first negative is this. Ben Affleck has done some shitty movies. Some really shitty movies. The most notable one I can think of is Jiggly. The one with Jennifer Lopez, I can't pronounce it. That movie was absolute garbage. And, yeah. That's probably the lowest point of his acting career. Then he did Jersey Girl. He probably did some others that I didn't see that were absolutely horrible. But then there's the main one as to why people don't want him being a superhero again is Daredevil. And what I have to say to this also has to apply to every superhero movie out there, in my opinion. Superhero movies can be good with bad actors and can be bad with good actors. Superhero movies, more than any other movie out there, I think are carried more by the writing than they are by the actual acting of the people in it. So, I'm not going to say Ben Affleck did a stand-up job in Daredevil, but that movie wasn't bad because Ben Affleck did a terrible job acting in it. That movie was bad because the writing in it was absolute shit. And that's just the truth. The acting in that movie was horrendous. So, if you're, using that as your example, that movie wasn't bad because it was Ben Affleck's fault. That movie was bad because the writing was shitty. That movie would have been bad if Leonardo DiCaprio would have been fucking Daredevil. Okay? And that's the truth. That movie would have been bad regardless. So, don't judge Ben Affleck off of his superhero performance in Daredevil, which is what a lot of people are doing. You can't do that because, and at least in my opinion, because superhero movies are based off of the, more or less, the writing of how well they're going to do. So, that being said, he did bad movies. He's put out some bad movies, but don't let those affect your opinion of what he's going to do in this. Because while he's put out some bad movies, he's also put out some really good movies, some really fantastic movies, I must say. Example, going back to the old days, Good Will Hunting, Phantoms, Dogma, Boiler Room. If you want to see Vin Diesel actually probably do the best acting job of his career, watch Boiler Room. Then of more recent years, he's put out The Town and Argo, which both of those I believe he directed as well, and I believe he won an Oscar for both of those as far as directing as well. So Ben Affleck, he can act. He did a great job in both of those most recent films, especially The Town and Argo. Whether he did it because he was directing it himself and he wanted it to be a really good movie, or if he just happened to feel like acting that day, I'm not sure. But Ben Affleck can act, and you should not worry about him being a bad actor if that's another reason why you're worried about him being a bad Batman. Now, I will say this though, and this is pretty much my only other complaint that I have, or really concern I have for Ben Affleck being Batman, and that is I've seen him act, and I'm not sure if Ben Affleck has in his repertoire of acting skills the ability to portray the tone needed, body language wise and tone wise in the voice tone, I guess is what the word I'm looking for. But if he can portray Batman properly. Now, before I go any farther on that, I will say I think Ben Affleck can give a pretty damn good Bruce Wayne. I think that he can probably give a better Bruce Wayne than Christian Bale did. Christian Bale, in my opinion, did a fantastic Bruce Wayne. He had the whole he had the charisma nailed down perfectly, and he had a bit of arrogance to himself in his Bruce Wayne, which is what Bruce Wayne needs, especially when he's out in public. But at the same time, I'm not sure if Ben Affleck can give a really solid Batman performance, because I don't know if he has the whole tone of Batman in his acting ability. Batman, he needs a certain tone. He needs to have a tough tone. He needs to have a gruff tone as well. As far as the voice is concerned, like, he doesn't need to do what Christian Bale did, which was over-exaggerate the growl that Batman has. If you didn't know, in the comics it is stated that Batman does have a bit of a growl in his voice, and Christian Bale, he did the growl, but he over-exaggerated a little bit. Well, not a little bit. He did the whole "Harvey Dent, can we trust him?" That whole thing. He did it way too much. I think he overdid it. He over-exaggerated, which he didn't need to do, but it got the point across. So I'm not gonna fault him for at least sticking to how the character should have been portrayed previously. Me personally, I still think Michael Keaton is the best Batman. As far as playing Batman is concerned. So I don't know if Ben Affleck can give a Michael Keaton Batman-ish performance, but I think he can at least give as good of a Bruce Wayne as Christian Bale did. So that's why I'm not really concerned about this as a whole. But the problem is that Batman is supposed to be older in this movie. So will we be seeing Bruce Wayne as much? Who knows? Will Ben Affleck need to show off his charismatic abilities and stuff? I don't know, because this is supposed to be an older Batman, which means that they might not do a love triangle between Lois Lane, Clark Kent, and Bruce Wayne, which is kind of the obvious thing to do, but it would make sense for them to do it because it's supposed. Because the title's making me think it's going to be a Batman versus Superman. At least at the beginning, it's going to be Batman versus Superman, so they're going to be enemies at the beginning in some form or another. I know they have the Batman, because it's Batman versus Superman. It's not Batman Superman. It's not like Batman cross / Superman, or Superman with Batman, whichever order you prefer, where they're teaming up and working together. It's Batman versus Superman, which means that they're probably going to be in some sort of conflict, more or less, at the beginning of the film. And of course, by the end, they'll be buddy-buddy. But, to add to that conflict, I imagine that they're going to be doing something with Lois Lane. And, I think Ben Affleck is a perfect choice, especially if they're going to be doing something with that. But, getting to what will probably be my last, and probably one of the most important reasons why I'm not afraid of Ben Affleck being Batman is this. Ben Affleck reads comic books. I wouldn't declare him a comic book nerd, but he reads comic books. He's great friends with Kevin Smith, who, if you don't know who he is a huge Batman fanatic, and they're good friends. So I imagine, with Ben Affleck getting a chance to get to play as Batman, Kevin Smith might be able to come in and be like, hey, if you want to do the character some justice, you might want to do this, you might want to do this, as far as like how you portray him is concerned. And who knows, Ben Affleck is good friends with Kevin Smith, and he's on the film now. There might be a good chance of Kevin Smith, well, maybe not a good chance, but there might be a chance of Kevin Smith helping with the writing for Batman in the film. Who knows? I mean, Kevin Smith, he's a comic book. He's definition of a comic book nerd. He loves comic books, and I think that could be a pretty cool thing if he helps out. But I really think that because Ben Affleck already has a history with the comics, and he's friends with Kevin Smith, who could help him out, maybe understanding Batman a little bit better, that there's a good chance that Ben Affleck could do a truer what's the word I'm looking for? A truer representation of Batman than people have done in the past. As far as, I know it comes down to how they want Batman to be portrayed in the film, but there's a good chance that, he could bring some sense of a truer Batman to the film than maybe people have done in the past. So I think that's good for everyone. I think that's good for the film, and hopefully I'm not wrong in hoping these things, and it can bring a sense of relief by having someone who he's familiar with the character already to some extent, and he won't have to go through and just power read a bunch of graphic novels to get a sense for how Batman should be portrayed. But getting to a final closing point, and just one last thing I want to talk about, is that if this film does well, there is a chance that we could get a Justice League movie shortly afterward, and that would be awesome. If Ben Affleck does a good job as Batman in this one, then of course he's gonna be Batman in the Justice League movie. We already got our Superman set, and I heard there's going to be a Flash movie coming out in 2015 as well. It might have been 2016, but in a couple years there's going to be a Flash movie possibly coming out, which is going to be really awesome. And then if a Justice League movie comes out, I'm trying to think of what characters they can make standalone films for. Are they going to reboot the Green Lantern film and get someone other than Ryan Reynolds? Who knows? I mean, once again, Green Lantern, getting back to the point I stated earlier in this video, that movie wasn't bad because of Ryan Reynolds. That movie was bad because of the writing. And I just thought I'd say that. But I don't know, I just think I think it's really exciting, especially if you're a DC fan right now. Especially if you're a fan of the DC movies, and especially if you're not one who's like caught up in like, no, this doesn't happen because of this, or like just you're not stuck on with the lore up your ass, and you understand that this is a movie and it is a different representation from the comics. And especially if you're excited about stuff like that, to see maybe someone else's different take on it, especially if it's live action, this can be really cool. But if you liked the video, or you liked my points that I stated, you don't have to agree with them, but you thought they had some sort of bearing to them, go ahead and like the video. At the same time, go ahead and check out the rest of my channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and if you liked it, what you see, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.